Hi, this is Linda Johansen-James, and you're listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Solis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Solis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Hey, everybody. I am so jazzed to have my good friend on here today. And you might recognize her from her appearances on KLAS, CBS's 8 Las Vegas Now. And she's their exclusive retail correspondent. And that is Linda Johansen-James. Linda, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Brad. Appreciate you having me.
I'm going to read your bio real quick. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Like I said before, you're KLAS CBS 8 Las Vegas Now exclusive retail correspondent. But Linda Johansen-James is an acclaimed figure in the retail industry with the well-earned nickname, the billion-dollar brand maker. We're going to talk about that today. And more than 2 decades of leading prestigious retail companies to massive success. The powerhouse multi-hyphenated is the founder and CEO of International Retail Group and publisher of International Retail Magazine, an avid philanthropist and highly sought after public speaker. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So let's get started. How did you really get immersed in retail? Because some people, they start out and they go, I kind of like this. They're on the front lines, or maybe they like interacting with people, but you really took it to another level. So let's talk about that.
Well, it's really my husband's fault. So I'm and you Max. Know my husband, Max James. So I've never really liked to shop, but I love to buy. And so about 28 years ago, my daughter started working at this company called Proactiv. And she was managing one of their carts. As a matter of fact, one of their first 6 carts. And I had just closed down my business that I had owned for 10 years. I was consulting for a few companies. And a friend of mine said, you have to meet this guy. He's looking for, for someone to help him open retail locations.
Right.
Sorry.
Take your time.
Anyway, long story short is Max and I partnered together. We represented a brand called Proactiv Skincare Solution, number 1 selling acne brand in the world. And for the next 5 years, we opened 120 locations every 6 months. And then the next 6 months, we picked up our mess. And wow. it was pretty crazy. We ended up with over 500 staffed locations in 4 countries.
Wow. That's extraordinary growth. Folks, if you remember back in the day when you went to the mall, those people who were selling Proactiv on the cart in the main, walkway, that's Linda and Max James. They now you opened every one of those carts personally.
Up to the first 100, up to the first. The first year I opened 35 locations myself in 5 months. And it was, first of all, I'd never done it before. So it was really exciting. And at that time, we were called cart operators,
What an insult.
I'm like, you work a cart, you're just, and quite frankly, several of the carts I opened were the old monkey grinder looking cart.
Oh, you're
Big
kidding
wagon
me.
Wheels. No. I'll never forget it. South Bay Mall in Redondo Beach. When I went to go open that, I'm like, oh my gosh, there are actually big wagon wheels in the front. But I opened the first 35 myself. And after that, I opened probably the next 200 or 300 of them. I tried to be at as many openings as I could, but obviously I couldn't do all of those myself. So
right. Well, that first job interview, and if you could share with our audience, that first job interview with Max was you weren't sure if you were going to get that job. So,
well, I wasn't really sure I wanted it.
Yeah. In case you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I work with both Linda and Max is a tough cookie. Let's put it this way: he's a Vietnam vet, so he doesn't stand for wiggle room. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So Max and I, I'm a little bit more, let's call it maybe flexible, maybe. So Max and I didn't really get along at first, but I think where we started getting along was at 4:00 in the morning after we got done setting up that first location was actually my interview. And it was at a Denny's, and Max and I started talking and realized we had a lot more in common. We were both type A personalities. We both like to be successful. We were both entrepreneurs. Anyway, long story short is that I went to work with Max, and we built a pretty phenomenal company over 19 years. And I have to tell you that we really changed how people looked at and saw the carts and kiosks down the common area of shopping malls. And but more than that, it was the people that we hired that worked with us.
What I loved about your company, and it was American Kiosk Management, is you brought class to the cart industry, the cart and kiosk industry, because your salespeople were never, you didn't chase people like some of these salespeople do in the mall. They chase you. You want to buy this. This is the best product. But what I find really interesting is you and Max, I mean, it was later on in life you fell in love. You guys worked hard together as business partners. Yes. You worked your way up. And I love this story because, Max is a tough cookie. Okay. So I look at the two of you and I say, Max is the pure left brain, hard nose. He's a Taurus kind of guy, and you bring that je ne sais quoi that the retail industry needs, the splash of color, the joy in the sales people's hearts, the front line part of this. And you eventually became chief operating officer first. Am I correct on that one?
Yes. Yeah. And only because I was thrown into it, because the person that Max hired quit with no notice and said, would you, I have a long history of owning my own companies and being an entrepreneur, but also I love to sell and I love to help customers and I love to be on the front line. So one of my favorite mentors is Jack Welch, and he said, you have to walk the manufacturing floor. And to me, you don't make decisions sitting in the big office. You make them with your people. And that's where we really excelled. And our partners at the time, Guthy-Renker, they couldn't understand how we could sell so much and how we really interacted with our customers and how we could get people to buy zit cream in the common area of shopping malls. And here's how we did it, is we did it by our personal relationships, by our employees really caring about the success of our customers. And that's how you're successful. You're successful by helping your customers and people be successful. And that's where Max and I saw eye to eye. And so eventually we became partners in the business, and we grew it to, about 400 staff locations. We were the first people to introduce automated retail, selling skincare products in shopping centers and airports and military bases and store. And we eventually amassed about $2 billion worth of sales selling zit cream in the common area of shopping centers and automated retail.
You are so right in everything you're talking about. And it boils down. Sam Walton was another one who created Walmart. He believed he would do that secret shopping. He would go in and he'd act like he was a customer. And I love that. The thing about your success, and I see this with a lot of entrepreneurs, partnerships can only work if the two of you come from very opposite disciplines, but there's this beautiful overlap in the center. And your overlap, I believe, was that customer service, that right there in your face. And we talked about this many, many times. You literally have a very unique training style. And I want you to talk about this a little bit, but it was so impressive that when you have brought your own people in to do a demonstration of Proactiv to the people who actually created Proactiv, they were like, you know the product better than our scientists. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, listen, it's not easy, first of all, operating in the common area, but, but we loved it because everybody walked past you, and how people shop. If you look at the psychology of shopping, and I really don't like to shop, I like to buy. But when you're walking past an inline store, you really have to like what you see in the store to walk into it, right?
Right.
But when you're operating in the common area, so we really educated the retail industry to look at us as retailers who operated in the common area, not cart people. Oh. And so what we did was, you have 3 seconds to gain people's attention, especially when you're in the common area. So we made our carts and kiosks very warm and inviting. We were the first ones to put TVs on the carts to draw people attention to us so they'd watch them. And then we trained our people to not sell, but to ask open-ended questions, to be involved in the process with our customers, and really find out if Proactiv was what they needed and what they should have. Because we had, the active ingredients in Proactiv are the strongest non-prescription grade ingredients. So our people had to learn what benzoyl peroxide was, what salicylic acid, was sulfur. Were they allergic to it? How do they use it properly? So we actually had to demonstrate that product. But before we did that, we had to ask a lot of open-ended questions. So we scripted our people. We wrote scripts, and our people were trained to be scripted in the beginning, because someone could have a severe reaction to sulfur. And if we didn't know that in the beginning, right, Brad, then there could be some legality issues there as well, which we never had, by the way. So, so our people were trained and scripted, and we actually did videos. So they watched videos on it. We were the first to implement an across the board integrated POS system that we actually developed ourselves. And on top of that, we developed videos, training videos of me talking about each product, the ingredients that were in it, and they were required to watch it.
Wow.
And then we trusted but verified, as Ronald Reagan said. So we mystery shopped our locations all the time. And not to catch them doing something wrong, but to catch them doing something right and reward them for knowing the product, for knowing the ingredients. And I have to tell you that I am so proud of the 54,000 people that we hired and trained. A lot of them went on to become lawyers and own their own businesses. And I still get emails and messages to this day saying, Linda, how you trained us helped us in other jobs that we took. And that, to me, was what we believed in, that if you stayed with us forever, well, great. But if you didn't, we wanted you to be better when you left than you were when you came.
Wow. That reminds me of the Richard Branson quote. It's like, treat people as if you don't want them to leave, train them. Yep. And treat them as if you don't want them to leave. And that is the most powerful thing I think you can do. Sorry, I just botched Richard Branson's.
No, you quote. Really did. That was just terrible.
Thank you. But I
love you. But,
I know. We've known each other for years.
Exactly.
The funny thing, I'm big on, how do we define what you did? You really trained everybody to be like commandos.
Yes.
Who can adapt within the field. You're like retail warriors.
That's exactly what. Yep. And everybody out there was. So here's the deal. You don't build an organization like ours and own and operate and manage and oversee a network in 4 countries and without training your people we train them to operate their business at their location like they owned it. So if they made a decision, we armed them to make a decision as if they were making it for themselves. So would you make this decision if you owned this business yourself? No. Okay. Well, then you shouldn't make it now. So, and they treated the people, their employees and their customers, as if the money was going in their pocket. And it was, by the way. We paid them well. They made great commission. And we recognized them for the jobs that they did. And where I see the struggle today with retailers is they're trying to fix things that are not causing the issue.
Right.
Right. So they're not training their people to be customer service advocates. So
this is very bizarre to me because this is the bedrock of real retail. And you have employees that were with you for 17 years. This is unheard of in the retail industry. And I have to give accolades to you. Your training program not only works, it made people, one of your employees was able to raise her boys, send them to college and, pay her mortgage. I mean, this is unheard of. And it's a simple strategy. Treat your people well, give them the tools to sell, test and repeat, adapt. I mean, how hard is this?
Well, it seems to be really hard, Brad, because we, during the course of our Proactiv days, I mean, first of all, we were very blessed to have great mentors in Guthy-Renker and the folks that we worked with. And eventually they became our business partners, in the business, but they gave us the marketing prowess. But listen, you can't depend on other people to build your business. And so people like Bizrat and Nicole and TJ and Angie and the people that were part of our team, Bizrat moved, and I hope you don't mind, but I have to tell this story because to me, it is the thread of our business and why people stay. But listen to me. People do not grow up and say, Mom, I'm going to manage a cart in the common area of a shopping mall. That's what I'm going to do. And they don't grow up believing that or wanting that for their career. But they stayed with us because they made a difference in people's lives. They changed people's life. Bizrat was from Nigeria. She had never worked, and she said that God had her go to the college that I was recruiting at for a job. She didn't know she wanted a job. She was cooking dinner. She had 4 small children, but she said, I turned everything off and went. And she asked me, she needed a job and she wanted to be a manager. Anyway, I'm going to make a long story really short, but I didn't want her to be, she had no training to be a manager. And she said, I need this job and I need you to hire me. And if you give me this job, I promise you, I will never let you down.
Wow.
And first of all, you can tell it chokes me up when I tell it now. She's still a very dear friend of mine. And I said, okay. Well, this woman worked for me for 17 years. She was one of the first carts to do $1 million selling $40 zit kits.
Wow.
One employee working at a time, $40 zit kits. She did over $1 million. She worked every weekend for 17 years. She was able to change her life dramatically. She raised her children on her own. She bought her own home. She sent her kids to college. She bought her own cars, and she is still a very dear friend to this day. And the lives that woman changed in her team, it's phenomenal. And you don't do that by not empowering your people to do whatever it takes to take care of your customers. Her highest sales year was $1.6 million.
Wow. She did not let you down. Whoa.
Did not let me down. And she's an incredible woman, and her children are incredible. And again, she's still a very dear friend of mine today. So
this is a testament to your training. And I'm going to get this quote right. Train people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to. Yep. By Sir Richard Branson.
That's exactly it. Hire for attitude, train for skill, which is what we did. And we believe that you didn't necessarily have to be a dermatologist or an esthetician to learn about our product, but we had to give you the tools to be successful, and we did. We had detailed operation manuals, SOP, but the big thing was training. Training and to passionately care about your customers. So I would mind tell one more story because I think this. So I was up in Richmond, Canada, on a Saturday working the cart, and a woman came up to me and she says, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, where's the manager? Where's she?" And I said, "Oh, she's just in the storage getting some product." And she said, "Well, can I tell you my story?" Now I didn't ask her, and I said, "Sure." And she said, "Well," she said, "I had severe cystic acne my whole life." And if you know anything about acne, cystic acne is where you have the big bubbles and bumps on your face. And she said, "I tried everything. I went to doctors, went to dermatologists, I had laser, I tried every product under the sun and nothing worked." And she said, "I had never been on a date. I didn't go to my prom. I don't go out because I'm so embarrassed in my skin." Wow. And she said, "I was in the mall one day and I was walking by your cart, and whoever was working that day," I found out later it was a manager, just said, "Hi, how are you today?" And she said she didn't try and sell me anything. And I looked up and I saw the sign. And I know this sounds like it's staged, but it's not. And she said, "I saw the sign Proactiv and I knew I had heard about it." And she said, I went over and I said, "Well, can you tell me a little more?" Anyway, long story short is she bought it. And inside of about 5 months, her acne was completely cleared. She went on her first date. She ended up getting married, and she now goes to that kiosk. She did every Saturday to talk to other customers about how Proactiv and this manager, by just saying hello to her, not in an aggressive way, but in a caring way, changed the trajectory of her life.
Wow.
And she, free of charge, went to that cart every Saturday to tell people about Proactiv.
That is amazing. It had a huge impact on her life. And I love hearing stories like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda. I mean, that's a testament to what you were doing. And you had a great product.
We did. We were blessed.
And I think for those of you who are listening, ladies and gentlemen, if you're an entrepreneur or you work in retail, I hope you're taking notes, because in between these stories and the sentences, you're hearing keys and tactics and secrets that really helped Linda and Max and AKM really catapult their success. Now, you guys had a saying over there, go like hell,
and pick up
then stop and figure out what you screwed up and fix it.
Yep.
Talk about that a little bit, because you would do this for 6 months and stop and reassess.
Yeah, we did it for the first 5 years, frankly.
That's rough.
We were opening so many locations, and obviously some worked, some didn't. Max and I would sit down every Saturday with the Rand McNally map, which I still have to this day. That was before Garmin, before your cell phone, before MapQuest, before Google Maps, and we mapped out where we were going. And so he'd go look at some malls, I'd go look at other malls, we'd pick the malls we were going to open. And at first it was just myself and Max and 2 employees, and we did everything. We went into the towns, we bought all the merchandise, we merchandised the locations, we hired and trained the employees, and then we left. And so the first manager I ever hired, Lily Sanchez, she stayed with us for 16 years. And we went out and recruited anywhere we could find employees. This is before we had Indeed or Job Seeker. I mean, now people depend on all of these things to hire and train employees. I still believe that boots on the ground recruiting is the best way to recruit. Now, I know some of you won't like that because you're saying, well, you're recruiting my employees. But here's the deal. My employees got recruited all the time because they were the best in the industry, bar none.
Yeah.
I could put them up against a manager at any inline store or any part-time team member. These people were dead. It wasn't only the managers that stayed with us. Our employees, even our part-time employees, stayed with us for years and years and years. And guess why? Because they were treated well and they made a difference. They made a difference. And so we believe that if your employees are happy, regardless of if they're going to get paid more money, they're recruited from somewhere else, they won't go. And my employees didn't go.
Yeah.
They didn't leave. And the ones that did, we found out why. And we said, what could we have done differently to have you stay? So people who can't find employees, you're not looking in the right places because the best employees are already working.
You got it. You nailed it. So let's talk numbers. When you finally left AKM to start international,
I didn't leave AKM. I mean,
we sold it.
Yeah. So so during the process of that, I started International Retail Group, and while we were, kind of ramping down AKM, I started International Retail Group because I knew that I could help other retailers. I didn't want to necessarily own and operate my own businesses again, but I wanted to take the SOPs and the key learnings I had for 19 years of owning AKM and opening all these locations and hiring and training employees and developing POS systems. I wanted to take those pieces and help other retailers. So that's what I do now is I help entrepreneurs and brands who are interested in testing and launching their product in retail, or brand new retailers who don't perhaps have any SOPs or operations manuals or training guidelines. Like this morning, while I was a few minutes late, as I was working with one of my clients who owns 8 stores here in Vegas, and I'm doing all of the training of his employees to help them to become better salespeople and to take care of his customers. So that's what I do now. And so I love it. I love being in the front lines, and I love being out helping people be successful.
I love the fact that you create loyal customers, almost like brand ambassadors for what you do. And that starts with those frontline people. So I'm excited by that. What were some of the craziest challenges you've had with clients since launching IRG?
Unreal expectations.
Don't we all have that?
Listen, being an entrepreneur myself, I know immediately that I'm going to be successful, right? I mean, we have that mindset, don't we, Brad?
Yeah, we just assume.
We just assume that we're going to be
Here I go.
And we have unrealistic sales expectations put on what we're doing. So I think regardless of how many times I explain to them that this is an art, not a science. I love that. I always say this is an art, not a science when you open a retail shop. Yeah. Depending on where you're located, where your store is or your pop-up or your common area location, or depending on what your product is. The consumer may love it or they may hate it. And I don't know that to be a fact until we test it. That's why I love pop-ups. Max and I did pop-ups for years. And now all of a sudden people say, oh, well, this is new. No, it's not. No. We've been doing pop-ups for 25 years in the common area shopping mall. And so I have a lot of other of our friends that operated in the common area. So you don't always know. Max and I would open a location. If they didn't get to break even in 3 to 6 months, we shut it down. And did we take it personally? Sure we did, because customers then couldn't buy our product in that shopping mall. But listen, not all of the reasons it's successful are yours.
Right.
That it's not successful. If you do everything right, you train all your employees right, you merchandise properly, you have the right POS system, you're in the right location, in the right shopping center, in the right city, and you're still not successful, why then it is what it is. So you just cut your losses early and move on.
I agree with you. It's a business decision, and as sad as it may be, because you really have hope and faith in that location, it just may not work out. There might not be that many people with acne in that area. You might have a working class group that doesn't care, and there's all kinds of factors going on.
Well, now it depends on, back then, it depended on people knowing who Proactiv was, but it was also our responsibility to teach people who Proactiv was. Right. But, we had the great stars behind us too, but that doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You have to market it. And listen, when 2007 hit and all the retailers, the Great Recession, and everybody was closing down, we didn't close down all of our stores. And do you know why?
Why?
Because we didn't depend on the mall to drive traffic to our location. We did it. And we didn't have Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and LinkedIn and all that. We had to do it by developing a strong loyalty program where our customers kept coming back to buy from us. So while everybody was running down to the mall management office saying, oh my God, you got to bring me more customers, we said, we're going to bring our own customers. So we developed a strong following. And today the difference is that strong following is online for most of the brands that I test. So they have to perhaps look at, it's a value add to have a brick and mortar store, right? Because that's gonna bring you more sales to add to your online business. So it has to be omni-channel. But that's the biggest challenge I see, is helping brands look at the long-term strategy and not base what happens today or next month or even 3 months. Don't be too quick to judge that you're not going to be successful. You have to give it time, but you also have to support it with your marketing initiatives.
I like the hybrid model that you put together, because a lot of young entrepreneurs, I see them, they want to just be online. They don't want to deal with customers, and they don't get a chance to test. And sometimes your flagship, that one office you have, or that one storefront that you have, can actually generate more revenue. Exactly. But it's also your test strategy area. You had somebody you were working with, and I'd like you to talk about this. He wasn't very successful, and you went in and analyzed his business, and you came to the conclusion it was because he hired friends, and they would just stand around, and you said, hey, you got to train these people. You want to talk about that?
Well, I think one of the things when you're a consultancy, and I think you know this, Brad, is that when you're assessing a business, you have to look at all the components that go into it to be successful, right? So are you developing a P&L? Do you have the right product mix? Are you carrying too much product? Are you spending too much money? Are your salespeople understand the expectations? I mean, so when I go in and assess a business, I assess it from the inside out and look at, are you merchandising your products the right way? Are you looking at what your cost of goods are? But even more important than all of that, it's the people that work with you. And are you giving them all the tools that they need to be successful in running and operating your business? And a lot of times you see that they're not. And interestingly enough, I think that's the funnest part of my business, is helping people to look at that and see that, and then help them help their people to be successful. And then when they see the sales go up, they're like, yes, but listen, a lot of us don't like to hear what we're not doing right. Okay.
Ain't that the truth?
And being from Boston, I tend to be a bit blunt, and my clients have learned to either really like it, but I like to give you all the data and then have you make the decision on what it is that you want me to do to help you grow your business.
That's phenomenal. I'm from the East Coast as well. We're a little blunt. And as I've come out here, I've noticed a lot of people in Vegas and, Denver and all this, they don't like that. It's sort of like, whoa. Hey, buddy, take it down a notch,
Well, and during this time, I also have a temporary staffing agency. So I've been able to help people by staffing their retail locations too. Either the employees can work for them, or a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to operate that end of the business. So I can help them by running it for them so that they can concentrate on their side of the business, whether it be online or in the marketing or whatever it is. So
you have created such a great reputation that you were sought out by one of the sharks. You want to talk about how you met Damon John?
Well, listen, Max and I had always watched Shark Tank, trying to look for new products to launch into retail. So, and Damon, you know this, so I'm going to send this podcast to Damon to listen to, but he knows that he was always my favorite shark. I loved what he did with FUBU. He came from nothing. And he and his mom actually put a second mortgage on his home, and they were making hats in his kitchen. I mean, and then he worked at Spaghetti Factory, and he's built this incredible organization because he's a worker, because he works. And I love it. And so I was sitting in my office one day, and my receptionist came in, and she said, "There's somebody here to see you." And I said, "Well, they have an appointment." And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, I'm kind of busy, you know." She said, "Oh no, you're gonna wanna meet this guy." And I said, "Okay." So this gentleman that we had spoken to about launching some products in retail had actually brought Damon into our office, said, "You need to meet these people." And so I'm sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden in walks Damon John, and I'm like, "Oh my God, you're like," I mean, I was like a groupie. You know, it's so embarrassing.
Act cool, Linda. Linda, act cool.
I wasn't cool at all. I like ran out of my desk, hugged him, and I said, "Oh my God, you're Damon John." He said, "Yes, I am, and you're Linda Johansen." And I'm like, it was literally, sorry, Max, it was love at first sight. I mean, he was so incredible, and we actually launched the first Damon John kiosk that was really cool. And we had 12 of his best-selling items that he had launched in retail. And we kept that open for, 6 or 7 months, and found out that, it worked, but it didn't. And so it wasn't enough. But we developed a great relationship with Damon, and I'm actually one of the chapters in his Power of Broke book. So
Power of Broke.
It was a great test. We launched Damon's book. We did a big book signing in the mall, and it was the first time that the mall had actually done a book signing, and brought in like 500 people to sign Damon's book. And he actually went to the kiosk, and it was just, it's a ton of fun. So see, sometimes things work, sometimes they don't, but there's learnings every time you test and try a product. And now Damon's been on the cover of our magazine.
Yes. I was just going to mention that. For those of you who don't know, Linda Johansen-James is the publisher of International Retail Magazine. And she came to me to do the creative layout for the whole thing. And her second big launch of the new brand was with Damon John on the cover. And I loved working with his people. I mean, Zach was really great and everybody. And we got these really good photos from down under the Manhattan Bridge area. I know really well, living in New York for 35 years. And so I just wanted this cover that jumped out at you. So we had a lot of fun on that issue, I would have to say.
We did, and Damon loved it, and I so appreciated him, being on the cover, and he's been a great friend since then. And that was, well, I don't know, whatever Power Broke came out, so maybe 10 years ago or so. Wow. He's an incredible entrepreneur, and helping other entrepreneurs be successful, which is what I love to do. And then having his own FUBU brand.
Yes.
So on top of it, he's a true retailer, and I think, Brad, being the creative director of the magazine, has done just an incredible job. And really magazines, I didn't think, and I have to give credit to Leah Woodford. I mean, she really encouraged me to do this magazine during COVID. And I'm like, first of all, if you even get a 2-sentence email from me, it's long. And and so I'm not really a writer, and thankfully I don't have to be. I have people to do that for me with the magazine, but we launched this magazine because really in the retail industry, there wasn't a publication that's really kind of hands-on retail warrior on the ground magazine. So we tell real stories about real people, whether it's in the common area, whether it's marketing, whether it's shopping center executives. Last magazine, we had Joe Cordino, the CEO and chairman of the board of Preet. And he told us about his challenges and struggles in the shopping center industry. And it was such an empowering story of how they came out of it together. And Joe really gave credit to his team on how they did, right?
I was really impressed with that particular issue as well, because I'm a former C-level executive myself. And when I saw the strategies that Joe had laid out, Joe Cordino, I said, this is brilliant. This is a leader, because he stuck it in there, stayed in there during the bad times. And they got out of their debt consolidation and bankruptcy in record time because of him. And I reached out to him. I said, that was incredibly impressive. So,
and he's a really fun guy. He's become a friend now. He's become a friend of mine, and we're doing business with the other company I just started with my two partners in London. So, become a dear friend. And I think shopping center executives and people in retail and on the marketing side, I mean, we'll find our magazine just really helpful. And the next one that's coming out is going to even be, I mean, it's going to be great. So
it gives practical, for those of you in the retail industry, I suggest you sign up and get a subscription, because it doesn't just say, look at what we're doing. It's, here's some practical advice.
Yes.
Here's some real world solutions that can help you with your brand, help you with your sales, crush it in your marketing, and also training. I'm always fascinated by the articles. I have to do the spreads and the layouts, but I love reading them as well, because they're fascinating people who are passionate about their work, and they're willing to share their secrets.
And they're global. And our industry now is a global industry, and you have to look at, where can I learn best practices from other retailers, that are worldwide. So, we've had Chris Sigway on the cover, global retail expert. He's become, a dear friend. And so we have Jane Seymour. I mean, people that you wouldn't think are retailers or in our industry, that are. So
yeah, pick up a copy and subscribe. I mean, it's a fantastic magazine. I mean, I've been doing magazines since 1979. I don't want to say how old I am, but it really is the first magazine I've seen that gives real practical advice on the street level. It's like, here's how you do it, folks. So let's switch gears a little bit. You have been blowing up in the media now. You've been in all these different platforms, MSN, you've been on Fox, you've been on all these. But where you've gained a lot of traction is lately there's a huge amount of theft in the retail industry. Nordstrom's is shutting down. McDonald's and Panera Bread have shut down in the middle of Denver, Colorado. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you bring practical advice, but this is the one that everybody seems to lean in on, and that is theft. The rising of theft right now in certain cities.
Yeah, it's terrible. And it's because they have raised the limits on when the states and cities and municipalities will prosecute. And it's now up to, you have to steal, $900 before you're going to be prosecuted.
Wow.
And so plus, with what's happening in today's world with shootings and all of these types of things, across the board, businesses are telling their employees, don't put yourself in harm's way, which we don't want them to ever.
Right.
They come first, then the business. But what's happening is now you're getting these cartel-like gangs that are going in, like the one that just happened in Nordstrom's, where they took, $30,000 worth of merchandise and then ran out. Their cars don't have license plates. And so here's what the big topic is first of all of us that are in retail, grocery, drugstores, across the board, it's happening. In Europe, the big thing in London and the UK is grocery store theft because costs are going up so high. Here in the US, it's retail theft and grocery. Anyway, so the point is that you can't lock everything up because then you're not going to sell anything, right? So a lot of people are locking up merchandise. And so you have to press a button, you have to sit there and tap your fingers and wait. And I don't know if you're like me, but I don't have a lot of patience when it comes to waiting. And so you want to be waited on. If you have to wait 10 minutes to get a razor blade or to get a product that you want. So locking everything up isn't always the answer. So the simple answer is cameras in your stores so that you can show the police and prosecute people and recognize them. One of my clients the other day was in a store right next door to his store. He literally was walking in and 4 people were walking out with armfuls of clothing. And where's the employee there? He's at the POS desk, standing there, way at the other end of the store. So the first piece of advice I give to people when they are designing their stores, and you can do this now, by the way, is move your POS desk up towards the front of the store so that you can see what's happening. Put cameras up in your business so that you can provide that vital information. And then secondarily, don't put as many items out for people to steal. What we do is put the larger sizes out and put things out like that so that if someone runs in to steal something, it's not the highest priced item. So you have to merchandise differently. You have to train your people not to go after, don't ever run after people. You don't know what they have, right? But there's simple things that you can do, like putting cameras up, moving your POS up to the front part of the store so that they're deterred from stealing, right? Because they see 2 or 3 employees standing. And then merchandise a little differently and prosecute. Don't say, no, we don't want to prosecute. The more we get the word out there that we're going to prosecute people who steal from us.
Yes.
And I know that sounds like simplistic terms, but listen, this is systemic, and every retailer I talk to has the same problem with theft.
Yeah. Well, overall, it's going up something like almost close to $750 million. It's increased. It's horrible. Yep. And you're right. It's the law isn't doing anything. And by the way, you don't chase when they leave because your liability switches as soon as you walk out that door as a business owner. Yeah. So
when you don't know what they're going to do. So,
you don't.
And put signs up, by the way, everywhere in your store. You are under surveillance.
Yes.
So, because if you listen, it's simple and people don't want to do it, but I encourage you, a sign right when they walk in the door, you are under surveillance.
Yes.
So that they know immediately that you're watching and cameras are watching.
Fantastic, Linda. Thank you. How are we using technology these days as well? You just mentioned a few things, surveillance cameras, but what other pieces of technology are out there that retailers can use?
You mean to deter theft?
Well, not just theft, but what's new and upcoming?
Thing, right? I mean, AI is a big thing. I frankly, it's not like I haven't implemented AI in what I'm doing, but I mean, it's difficult to know what it is that you should implement as a retailer. But a lot of brands that I talk to, AI is front and foremost on what they're looking at so far as their marketing strategy, right? I don't know if I want a second Linda out there, if I want to. I see a lot of that in posts, right? Here's your AI twin, or here's your. I'm like, I don't think I want.
I don't think I want that either.
There's just so many different things out there that you can look at. But what I tell retailers to do, I think more than that, is make sure you're marketing your stores online. Make sure that if you're an online business and you're testing in stores, you're adding in your stores as part of your marketing strategy. That's a big thing. Drive people to your stores to touch and feel your product. There's people, Brad, like me, and I'm older, who still go to brick and mortar. Brick and mortar still 5% of all purchases made. So help your stores when you're testing them by driving people to go to stores and offer the same promotions online and in store.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, reach out to Linda Johansen-James. You can find her website, IRG's website, which is www.irg-retail.com. We got a lot of great stuff on the website that you can see, including the latest issue of International Retail Magazine. And you can get to see some of the great things that you've been doing over the past, 5-6 years. You've really bumped it up a notch, I would have to say. So good. I have a lightning round. I'm going to ask you 3 questions real quick so we can get to know you better.
Uh-oh.
You ready? Ready? Yeah. Okay.
I'm ready.
My first question is, what is something you're passionate about that maybe none of us know that you're passionate about?
Football.
What?
Football.
Football? Not Europe.
My football.
Football. So I see you guys at the Raiders games, you and Max. I love going to that stadium. That new stadium's killer.
It really is. Yeah. Here's the deal. I am a Raiders fan. I have season tickets to the Raiders. But I am a Patriots fan through and through.
I was just going to say.
You see my Tom Brady signed jersey and helmet and everything behind me?
No.
Yep.
Take a picture of it later, and I'll put it up. Oh, wow. Yes. Yep. Nice. Tom Brady. Yep. He has set the bar as the greatest quarterback ever. Yes, period. I mean, yes. My nephew, who is a huge Giants fan, he loves his New York teams, but he had to tip his hat, and he works in the sports industry, broadcasting. Sebastian, he had to admit Tom Brady is now the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yes, he is.
So my second question is, what legacy do you want to leave behind when you leave this earth?
That I made a difference in people's lives.
I think you have, Linda. I think you have. Especially those people that have been with you 17 years. Myself, who's become a friend. You're a lot of fun. So thank you. Thank you for being on Awakened Nation, Linda.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Everybody, don't forget, tune in next week, and we're going to have another extraordinary guest. Also, reach out to Linda Johansen-James. She's at irg-retail.com. And Linda, thanks again for being on the show. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.